Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. Survived yesterday's confirmation hearing with Mr. Javier Becerra. It was a long drawn out. It was basically the Kevin De Leon show. But we'll be putting together kind of a mixtape video for you so you guys can see the highlights and the lowlights. Very interesting things, very telling things came from it. But in any case, today's story, we're going to talk about should parents lose their gun rights? In other words, if you are a parent, right, you are a parent of a child, does that mean that you give up your right to keep and bear arms? Does that mean you give up control of your home? Well, the story that kind of got me thinking about this was actually a story out of Illinois. Yeah, I know, people trying to take gun rights in the state of Illinois. What, big surprise. Anyway, so a federal judge last week basically gave the green light to a lawsuit by a couple of parents who were interested in being foster parents. Now, in most states, or I won't say most states, at least I know in California and a lot of anti-gun states, one of the things that you give up to a certain degree when you are a parent is you don't give up your right necessarily to own a firearm, but there are serious restrictions on your ability to have access to it. In other words, generally it has to always be locked and stored, put away, and in some cases, like in California, the ammunition actually has to be stored separately from the firearm. Now, I know to those of you who actually have a brain, that doesn't make sense, does it? An intruder breaks into your home in the middle of the night. You go to get your firearm, and then you have to go and find your ammunition. So you have to go unlock whatever thing you have on your firearm or with your where your firearm is stored, whether it's a safe or whether it's a trigger lock. Then you have to go find the place where you have the ammunition locked and stored away. And hopefully by then, whoever's broken into your home, whoever's invading your home, hopefully by then they've either gone away or they haven't gotten to you or to your family. That's what, for example, the state of California thinks is reasonable, is gun safety. They think that's the point. Anyway, but what happened was a district court judge, Judge Colin Sterling Bruce, and the reason why I point that out is in 2013, he was appointed by President Barack Obama. He actually said that, wait a minute, these parents do have a right to at least have their case heard. Now, mind you, that's because the lower court said, no, they really don't have standing. They really don't have a reason. There's really no point for their case to go forward, which is interesting because that seems to be the modus operandi by a lot of these justices to say, oh, well, you don't even have a case, so we're not even going to allow your case to be heard. But this judge basically stated that, there's a certain level of scrutiny that any law or regulation has to have in place. And at the very least, you at least have to give someone an opportunity to have their case heard, in particular if you're going to infringe upon their rights. Now, the couple, this particular couple, one of them, he's actually a firearms instructor. He teaches safe handling of firearms. So one of the things that's in fact one of the things that he does is teach people how to safely handle and store firearms. But what this did was, it really made me look into, exactly what it is that certain states are doing. And what made me really want to talk about this was in the state of California, we actually have a bill that's been introduced by a gentleman, Dr. Richard Pan. He's a state senator. And he's introduced SB 18. Now, this is, they call it the Child Bill of Rights. In other words, this is to illuminate there are certain fundamental rights that children have. And one of the things that they included in that is the right to a safe home environment. Now, I realize that sounds, to a lot of people, that sounds totally innocuous. Well, yeah, of course our home environment should be safe. But understand how they think. Part of their thinking is a safe home environment includes either no firearms or firearms that are stored away and basically kept inoperable, so that their point is so that a child can't get access to it. And the thing that's interesting about this is, once again, they realize that they can't get in through the front door. So now they're trying to come in through the back door. It's interesting. It's how they change the language. They call, basically, quote unquote, they call it gun safety. So now we're passing gun safety measures. Measures that don't keep anybody safe, that have had no success in reducing gun violence, but actually introducing legislation that seeks to limit our gun rights. And they're literally trying to use our children to take away our rights. I mean, think about it. Why do you think doctors are asking children, do your parents own any firearms? Why do you think at school they're asking, do your parents own any firearms? I mean, these are people who want to tell us how to live in every area of our lives. They want to tell us what our kids can learn, what we can tell our kids, what we can teach our kids, how we can discipline our children. I mean, the state wants to control our kids. They're the ones that are creating programs that have our kids at school from dawn until dusk. Now, we think it's, because they're trying to support the working family. No, they want control of our kids so they can tell them that they can instill the state's values in our kids. Not our values, but the state's values. And paramount among them is to take away your right to keep and bear arms. They're going to say, if you want to have children, they have a right to live in a home without a gun. And that's exactly the direction that they're going. Once again, that's my perspective. You guys can let me know what you guys think. Going here now. Let's see. But instead, children don't have the right to be safe from child abusers, which the state is releasing them on the streets. I do know that the state is releasing a lot of criminals. I don't know how many of them are child abusers, but I do know that they are letting people out on the streets who've been convicted of crimes. And it is interesting that they're seeking to lock up law-abiding citizens while at the same time letting criminals out on the streets. And then they're wondering, why is crime going up? Oh, by the way, another aside. So at yesterday's hearing with Mr. Becerra, nobody asked him a question about, the fact that the violent crime rate in the state of California has gone up from 2015 to 2016, and at least as far as the information we have so far, the first half of 2016, it's continued to rise in the state of California. And here it is, you have the person who's going to be the next top cop in the state of California, and do you know how many questions he got on what he's going to do to address that? How many did he get? Zero. Absolutely zero. Yeah, one question about sex trafficking. But other than that, absolutely nothing. Not a word, not a peep. The topic is not being talked about in all the media. I have posted about this topic for well over a month. Thank you, Nick, for getting the word out. I appreciate that. How do we get this out there more so that people know about this? Well, that's the point. See, here's the thing, guys. Social media is one of those things that gives you the opportunity to do one of two things. You can either to expand your world and your communication base in one of two ways. You can either use it to identify and find more people who think like you and connect with them, communicate with them, and feel like you're part of a bigger world. You also can use it to expand beyond your universe to people who maybe don't think like you, people who you don't even know, but people who don't think like you within your sphere of influence. The problem with only doing the first part is you surround yourself with people who think exactly like you, which isn't necessarily in and of itself a bad thing. But the problem is that when you go to communicate, you're all talking to each other. You're already talking to people who already agree with you. So here's what I would encourage you to do. Utilize your social media to reach out beyond your comfort zone, connect and talk with people who maybe don't think like you, and share information like this. Ask people what they think. Sometimes asking questions is a better way than telling people what they should hear. Because if you ask the right questions, they'll arrive, if they're logical, reasonable people, they'll arrive at the same conclusion that you did. So part of it is helping to get the word out and helping those organizations that are working to get the word out. Once again, not just within our group, within our folks, but expanding it beyond that. Okay, let's see here. But in California, we don't have a right to say, oh, I already read that one. I believe the legislatures in Sacramento are trying to justify a full-time job by making crazy bills. We should go with a part-time like Texas. I won't get into the part-time legislature. I know that term limits made things worse in California. That I do know. A part-time legislature may or may not work, may or may not help. But the fundamental issue here is they're trying to change the terminology. They're trying to change the questions. This is the Bloomberg money, the Everytown money. This is where all of those resources and all of that PR stuff that they're doing, all of the research and polling that they're doing, they're finding the buzzwords that work. They're finding the ideas that work and then applying the buzzwords, and then they're introducing the legislation. But it's important for us to be able to see through it. That's the important part, for us to see through it and communicate and help others to be able to connect the dots. SB 18 is another nasty bill. My home rules. I'm a parent, not the government. Dexter, that is so true. People think that, well, because I send my kids to school, that even the school is responsible for educating them. No, no, no. As a parent, I am the educator. I'm the primary educator. I delegate that to the part of it to the schools, but it's still my responsibility to make sure they're doing their job. It's not their job to teach my kids morals and values. It's my job to teach my kid morals and values and to make sure that they have self-discipline when they go to school so that they can learn. But we're getting off guns. But in respects to that, it's also my responsibility to teach my child about gun safety, to teach them to respect firearms, to teach them how to safely handle those firearms, and when not to handle a firearm. That's my responsibility as a parent. Anyway, that aside. Excellent topic. Thank you, Raphael. States bit unto, I won't even, I'm even going to try to read that one. Sorry, yeah, well, if you're off topic, I'm not going to read it, but I'll probably come back and comment on it later. Where are we at here? When I was a youngin', wow, Kate, you used the word youngin'. You actually typed the word youngin'. Anyway, getting back to this. When I was a youngin', I had training and my home had guns all over the house. Well, that's exactly what I just talked about. See, it used to be we did teach our kids gun safety, and you had a lot fewer accidents with firearms. But now we teach them to fear guns. And the worst part is a lot of them are those folks who are like, oh, you know, they're the ones that are like, oh, they're the liberals who are like, oh, yeah, I own a gun, but don't tell anybody. They're the ones who don't respect firearms. Even if they own one, a lot of times they don't respect it. And if you respect it, well, then you need to teach everyone in your house about it, how to safely handle it, and how to respect it. That's what it's supposed to be about. So, like I said, the topic of this was, should parents lose their gun rights? No, they shouldn't. But I guarantee you this, they're trying to take them from you. And if you do not have access to a functional firearm in your home, if you are not allowed access to that under Heller, then your rights are being violated. Your Second Amendment rights are being violated. It's that simple. Anyway, everyone, that's it for today's topic. Thank you for watching, and I will look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.